BMW has updated the M4 for 2025. You get more power, you get a little bit of some tweaks in the graphic details, for example the headlights and also the CSL taillights. I think it's a good idea because those are some of the coolest taillights I've ever seen. It's a shame to just have it in the CSL, so I'm glad they put it in the production M4 for the 2025 model year. So what I'm going to do in this video is, as you know, talk about the spec and tech from this article from Car and Driver, and then I'm going to compare the design, the old one, the 2022 actually, because that's where the interior changed a lot from 2023 to 2022. iDrive 7, I do believe, iDrive 8, and then compare it to the new one from all angles and see what we can spot, what's new here for the 2025. Before I do that, let's have a look at this article here, linked down below in the description. So 2025 BMW M4 looks slightly sharper and makes even more power. You have 523 horsepower, and the cool LED taillights from the limited run M4 CSL are now standard. Fantastic news. The entry-level car having 473 horsepower directed to the rear axle in the non-competition version through a 6-speed manual gearbox, and then you have the competition, which comes with 503 horsepower and an 8-speed automatic transmission. But at the top of the three, the all-wheel drive competition X-Drive model sees its output boosted to 523 horsepower. And BMW has always been very conservative when it comes to the 0 to 60 numbers, as we can see right here. So they say 3.4 seconds 0 to 60 for the competition X-Drive and 3.6 for the convertible. But when Car and Driver tested this, have a look at these numbers here. In a 2022 BMW M4, there's 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds, which is a huge difference from the official numbers of 3.4. And as before, you have a 155 miles per hour speed limiter as standard, but if you want to go faster than that, if you live in Germany and are lucky enough to drive on the Autobahn, you might want to increase that to 174 for the convertible or 180 for the coupe. Now each new M4 gets brand new LEDs in the front end and also in the rear. They look like a cat just clawed the eyeballs of the M4. We're gonna have a look at that in a detail in a minute. It also, of course, as we talked about, get the M4 CSL taillights, these featuring laser diodes illuminating glass fiber bundles. And they're some of the coolest production taillights, specifically for the internal piece of what's going on inside of the taillights that I've ever seen. And it's cool that they put it in the regular M4. You also have the roof if you go for the optional steel roof instead of the carbon fiber. If you go for that, it's now going to be finished in gloss black to contrast the body color. Now this is the interior, and we're used to seeing this interior. We do have the 12.3-inch gauge cluster right here and the 14.9-inch infotainment screen. And I've talked so much about this, not just here on this channel, but also on the Sketch Monkey channel, in-person reviews of these new BMW interiors and what I think of them. And as you know, I do prefer the iDrive. I do believe it is the 7 that we have in the, for example, the Z4, the new manual. We also, by the way, have a brand new manual Z4 that they just launched. And in that one, you still have the old traditional looking interior with the physical climate buttons and the housing for the gauge cluster, which we used to have in the 2022 M4. And you know I do prefer those interiors over this iPad here on the dash. The heated steering wheel and the climate control and pretty much everything can be controlled by voice commands, but I have never trusted voice commands in cars. For some reason, maybe it's my accent or something, I'm not sure, but it just never really works as intended. But maybe it's better in this new 2025 M4. And it costs $1,000 more than last year for the M4, what is this? The M4 competition. The M4 Coupe, the 6-speed manual, and the M4 competition both cost $1,000 more, and deliveries will begin in March of this year. So pretty soon, in just about a month. So let's jump into Photoshop here. Let's have a look at what is new with this design. So they do offer now some graphic packages for the M4 as well. And I'm not so sure. I'm not sure. Honestly, I'm not just saying that because I think it looks ugly, but I'm really not sure if I like this or not. I think I'm gonna have to wait until I see it in person. Almost looks like a tribal tattoo here on the hood of the new 2025 M5. Both of these, as you can see, has the exterior carbon fiber package, because we have these fins down here. That is the easiest way to spot if the M4 has this or not. Same goes with the M3. Otherwise, this would just be a regular mesh like this if you don't have the exterior carbon fiber package. And the biggest change here, obviously, are the new headlights. So in the old one, we still have a resemblance of the old E30, E46, I think even E36 BMW, the angel eyes that you had, like the two round halos, headlight assembly. This is sort of a resemblance of that, but it's now got a lot more static and more robotic with these angles that we have. So in the new one, I actually think it got a little bit more dynamic. The reason I'm saying that is, if you look at the thickness here for the current M4, and the M3, it still has the same thickness going all around here in the front end. But now, looking at the new one, they actually added a little bit of different thickness to these scars that we have in the eyeball of the M4. So we have a thicker piece here, and then it goes down to a little bit thinner at the very bottom. So I do like this upgrade for the internal pieces of the design of the M4. It looks great. The only thing ruining it here is that we do have the license plate just smack in the middle of these big nostrils. Looking at the side view, it's not a lot of changes as expected. It's just a facelift. It's not a brand new M4 or M3. So we do have the same type of styling that we have, even the same wheels. So I do think they maybe could have switched up the wheels a little bit and made some new wheel designs, even though these wheels to me look fantastic. The only thing I would like to change here, as I've said before as well, is the staggered setup. I do believe we have, are these 20s or 21? I do believe these are 20s. Either way, they're staggered. So we have 19s in the front and 20s in the back. Given this Hot Wheels proportions, I would much rather have 20s in the front end as well. The broken shoulder line of the M4 is still intact, obviously. You're not going to change something like that. We have the shoulder line here, and then it's broken, so it comes back in the middle almost of the side view, in the center portion of the car, and then it comes back up top here again. So what I would like to do, I made a redesign of this in 2022 probably when this first came out, to just have one single shoulder line that stretches from one point to the other, like we have in the BMW M3, and that is the main reason why I think the M3 looks a lot better than the M4 in a side view. Pretty simple and straightforward. We still have this graphic intact down at the bottom, then flowing all the way back up. Doesn't really have any connection to the rear end bumper. It would be cool to have some sort of line here. Instead, we have this line just cutting off the bumper, and then it protrudes even further at the very bottom. This, I do believe, is a brand new color though. It looks almost like cream-like, with this very colorful interior. You can see, you can hint it here what type of color this interior is. I think that's a pretty cool combination, to have a subtle exterior color and then a very crazy looking interior. Still have, as I said, the same wheel setup. We have the 20s in the rear and the 19s in the front, and the staggered setup. Looking at the rear view, now this is the big change here when it comes to the graphic designs. I was a huge fan, I still am a huge fan of these taillights of the 2022 M2, because as you can see, these are dynamic. We have a thick piece, juicy LED here going into a thinner piece, and then shoots in to the middle, and of course same on the other side. And I think these look fantastic. I also like the ones that we have on the M3. They look similar and also has almost like a hockey stick design to them. Big massive diffuser in the lower section. And looking at the new one, these are just too cool to not put into a more mass-produced car. These taillights with these diodes that you can see here. I made a review of the CSL and I was fascinated by the 3D effect that you see in these when you kind of walk around them and you see them stacked behind each other, these small little lines of LED. I actually really like this color. It has a very classy vibe to it, and it contrasts nicely with this black spoiler up here and the big black diffuser down here at the bottom. Now last but not least, having a look at these interiors, we have the old 2022 up top with the iDrive 7 system. You have the new iDrive 8.5, I think they call it, with the voice commands in the new 2025 down here. What I would like to do here is, you see this steering wheel on the 2022, looking great, but it looks pretty basic BMW. The only thing that separates it to be a performance version are the this M logo down here, and then of course that we do have the interior carbon fiber bits in the steering wheel. That's not something you see on a regular 4 Series. But what I would like to do here is to take this steering wheel and apply it onto the iDrive 7 interior, and I personally would have my perfect BMW M4 interior, because as I've said before, the iDrive 7 still has the beautiful integration of both the infotainment screen and the gauge cluster. Gauge cluster they built a nice house around it so you can sit deep within the dash, looking fantastic. But the biggest thing here is of course this area right here at the bottom. First of all, I do think this looks better, the vent integration with this trim piece going around it, and we have still in the 7, we do have the physical buttons for the climate control settings. As you can see, it's completely changed for the iDrive 8.5. The vents just look almost like an afterthought down here. They don't have the same beautiful integration like we have in the 7, and you now have to go into the software in this little section down here to change anything you want in regards to the climate control settings. So overall, I do think it's a cool update graphically for the exterior design of the BMW, and I also like the new steering wheel. I'm not sure if this flat bottom steering wheel came out in 2023 or with this new 2025, but I do want to have, as I said, if we could take that flat bottom fat steering wheel, apply it onto the 2022 model year iDrive 7 interior, that to me would be the perfect BMW M4.